I'm Brian.
And I'm Dante.
I'm J-Dub.
And if you are a single cat lady who is looking to become a mom, well, you got your pick here. You can have Joe Dirt or you can have some black babies. It's up to you. These gentlemen are on call 24/7. Welcome in, everybody, and welcome to the Press Start Selects. Stand-up press start. We don't even know the name of the show here. We're a bunch of internet comedians, online comedians, real-world comedians, and we're going to be talking today about the state of politics, gaming, and all that in between. We have a special guest joining us for the first time on the podcast, J-Dub. Jay and I know each other. We go way back. We podcasted many times before. Awesome dude, consummate gamer. I will say, though, for those of you who are listening and watching, feel free. We could talk about whatever we want. We could say whatever we want, but I would just ask that if we could keep like the N-words down to a minimum, Dante.
I mean, I just want to say right away, I don't think Jay really looks like Joe Dirt. I didn't get that joke, if I'm being honest.
Are you telling me you're transracial? You're like, I identify as a black man. I identify as, yeah. I think that's what I'm waiting for in society. I'm just waiting for that to come into play.
We had Rachel Dolezal. She had her little 10 minutes of fame, right?
She had her moment in the sun.
Yeah. Now, here's a fun question. Who would you rather hang out with, Rachel Dolezal or Candace Owens?
I think for me, Candace, because
I think Rachel would be more fun, if I'm being honest.
Listen, I'm going to say Rachel, only because I have a million questions to ask her. Like, a million
right? Like Candace kind of got figured out. You get a nice
it's kind of like I know what I'm getting when I
Yeah.
get her, right? I know what I'm getting. So it's like, that would be a little bit less exciting. But Rachel, man, I got a lot of fucking questions to ask her.
You just want to start right away, like, hey, take a seat. We're gonna take a seat.
Got my pen and pad. I'm ready.
Let's go with it. Jay, thank you so much for making some time today to come on the show. There's just been so much going on. We last left our podcast off with Joe Biden watch. Where is he? He's now since shown up. And we now have a new Democratic presidential candidate in Kamala, and I'm probably butchering both words. What is your reaction to this entire craziness that we've seen over just the last 2 weeks in terms of American politics?
Well, I'll tell you this, man. It's exciting. I think ever since the Donald, right? Ever since he left office, things for the common man got a little boring, and America loves this excitement, and there's nothing excited than there's no greater excitement than having a guy just say what he want and do what he want, and with in regard to laws and everything else, like who cares? And I think the average Joe Dirt likes to function that way, or like to see that. Like you like to see something different. We've got all the stuffy guys previously and stuff like that, but Trump is a different character, and he's going to bring I wouldn't say excitement, but he's definitely going to bring comedy. He's definitely going to bring some gotcha moments and things like that. You just never know what you're going to get from that. Biden, on the other hand, was a boring guy. Person would fall asleep listening to him. Not knocking him, right? I mean, he's the good, safe guy, but sometimes America likes this excitement. And being honest, I saw there was no way that Joe Biden was going to win.
Oh yeah.
I just me personally, I just didn't see a way for him to win. And so what I think happened, especially after the whole Eargate thing with Donald Trump, whatever happened, whether it was shot or not. but whatever the case,
conspiracy here. Like, did he actually get shot?
I'm listening. This is all internet stuff, right? I'm bringing the internet
according
stuff,
to
right?
Meta, according to Facebook, it has been altered.
It's a 223 hit your ear. It's just just put a little Band-Aid on a piece of paper or whatever for a day or two, and you're good to go. But I think by Biden stepping aside and letting Kamala, that brings a whole nother ball game, because as you guys seen clearly, a lot of people are reinvigorated. Where the Democrats seemed like there was no hope, there was no excitement, everyone was probably going to just stay home. Now there's a bunch of people coming out. There's a bunch of excitement there because there's an opportunity to go and get it, and I think a greater chance than none. And so it's just it's all theater, man. This is all theater. Just like a football game. It's a Super Bowl, right? And that's what it is. I think the bulk of people, they don't care about the policies. They don't care about the other bullshit. They don't care about the religion. They don't care about the what do you call it? How people say that when they don't care about the character. They don't, right? Every single politician has some dirt on them. They have some stuff that they'd like to forget. But I think we have a race here, guys.
Yeah.
We have excited. It's going to be an exciting race.
I like how you compared it to football at the end, because that is exactly what it feels like. And it's like, oh, it was a bad season of WWE. Now The Rock is back. Shit's exciting
Yep.
again. Like, what? I like that in the WWE and football or esports or the movie theaters. I don't know if that's great for like the people who make decisions. That's, it's
True.
weird that that's where we're at. You know what I mean? It's like we're in the 80s finding out wrestling is fake, but it's our politics. Like,
Yeah.
shit.
Well, like they said, I mean, whether you like it or not, and I'm not here to tell a person who to like, who not to like. I'm apolitical. It really doesn't matter. My pocketbook has been the same, since with all these presidents. And my life hasn't really been affected by any of it. And I think for the most part, majority of Americans can probably say the same thing.
Yep.
But you have that slither, it's that slither line that on both sides, the fringes, that will argue you down and will fight for, the 5% of whatever it is to offer. And I think the average American doesn't really care for the most part. But I agree with you. I think this should be very important to us citizens, but because we're America and this is just the way we are now, it's 2024, it's silly season.
Well, it's the money, right?
Unfortunately,
Like, why does anyone get rights to streaming the debate? Why is that not on C-SPAN, a government network, for free to every citizen? Like, is that not something?
Yeah. Why don't we
But
put
no,
these guys
here's a
in
couple
a room?
$1 million. I'll pay for the rights to air this to people.
Yeah, and let's put them in a room for 3+ hours and let them debate on effing policy. For the heck of the good of the country, right? Because we were talking at the pre-show. There's no policy debate. It's literally you're weird, you're like a traitor, you're a threat to democracy, you're a childless cat lady who has no investment in the future. You're, especially with Kamala, like the online debate, especially around her race. We were joking about transracial earlier. Is she Indian? Is she Jamaican? Is she black? Is she not? And I've seen everybody weigh in, and I don't feel like I'm allowed to weigh in on that discussion because her complexion far darker than mine. I'm spotted though, like I get a degree. I can come in, with 5% and be like, here's my opinion. But it's just absolutely wild to kind of see how that plays out. And I think, to speak on like who's been impacted, I got 6 kids, dude. The start of the Biden presidency was amazing with that child tax credit, dude. Like it was, I'm talking about like, oh man, I can breathe this a little bit because also I got 6 paychecks coming in, baby. All right, let's keep this straight. It's still my money, right? They instead of giving it to you at the end of the year, they were like, let's just send you, and it was shown to work. So for the, I'm like, I always go after the Republicans.
You have to remind people. You have to remind people, guys. This is not free money. This is your money. It's your money. You work. Your wife works. You pay taxes. It's your money. It's not free handouts. Because there's a lot of people. It's your fucking money.
It still changed the game. It still changed the game for especially for those inherited.
It does.
Yeah, right?
It does.
So I tell you, the childless cat lady, if she's working,
4 years ago, going to that. 4 years ago, I was like, this is pretty sweet. Like this is really nice. I hope they keep this up. And the numbers showed it, right? That's the thing I get pissed about politics. I was like, you actually have actionable data that showed that this goal that we say we have is actually being accomplished. This is working. Oh, we're gonna let this expire because of political reasons. Well, you all. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
And
Well,
now
the
fast
big issue
forward
there is,
where
we
I'm
don't
like,
have single issue voting. It's
Yeah.
because we bundle everything in these
Well,
like
Oh,
bills
yeah, absolutely.
that,
There's
like,
never a clean
oh,
bill. There's never a clean
the
bill.
child
no.
tax credit was awesome and kick ass. We'd love to
Yeah.
keep that, but because we
Yeah.
have, aid to Ukraine or this immigration policy,
gosh,
we're
yeah.
gonna say no to this whole thing. It's like,
Yeah.
well, fuck
Yeah.
you. Like, let's just vote on this
You-
one thing here, this one thing here.
Yep.
Like,
You'll never get a clean bill because
Yeah.
you know why? Each one of those guys are like, I'm not voting for anything. It's not even coming up across my desk unless there's some in it for me. So
well,
it's that
there's
child
lobbyists or
tax
the
credit.
special interest
That's
group
for
gets in front of them.
American families. That's for their kids and their families. That's their money. That better come with billions for Israel or billions for
Mhm.
Ukraine or billions for somebody else. Now, mind you, they don't ask you, hey, do you mind if we borrow some of your tax dollars that you pay to send over there? The average citizen will probably be like, no,
No.
we need to take care of the people we have here,
Yeah.
and focus on our own domestic issues. And how about this? School is starting back. My kids need school clothes. How about you give me some of my money back and let me buy my kids some school clothes? That matters to me more than geopolitics across
Local
the globe.
politics
To
are
the
where it's
average
at.
person.
Local politics usually is where it's at. Like, obviously the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl, so the
Yeah.
main election is like what gets everybody like, charged up, and social media just makes us all like fucking coked out like rabbits that are just like ready to like tear into each other. But I can also say that from the economic perspective now, like with inflation, like it fucking hurts. Like it's like, oh yeah, and we choose to live a crazy life. Like we don't borrow money, so like we like I have an old truck. Things are paid off, and we're very fortunate in that. Not every American can, but I tell you, it's like, oh, my dad was trying to go buy a new car. He's retired, and he's like, yeah, the same car I bought in 2016, for $40,000. They want $80,000 for that. And I was like, shit, no, thank you. So everybody's it's going to be an interesting thing going in. Dante, do you think a woman can get elected president? Are we ready for that? Like,
I think we're at the place that like the majority of people don't give a shit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like, all right, go for it, try. I think people would get more upset
if it was Hillary,
at kind of her flip-floppy nature, or if it was Hillary, because Hillary had how many ties to special interest groups like Nestle or the oil companies. Like there was a very clear trail of
Hillary had
these people are feeding
the
her
big
money.
business vote. She had the big business vote. She just didn't have the average Joe Blow vote. The average citizen doesn't like her for a ton of reasons. They just don't. She has a
huge thing.
There's a facade about her that's kind of fake, is not genuine. You have that going for her.
Pokemon go to the polls.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Dude,
and clearly, America spoke, right? They chose, hey, you're gonna choose the black guy, or you're gonna choose the white woman, and America said, I'm gonna take my chance with the black guy.
Yeah,
and Hillary,
it's like the whole bear
there was
problem. When you want to be alone in the woods with a
yeah,
bear.
it's that's what it
Or a
is.
man.
But I will say this. I think Kamala has, at least on the surface, it seems like she has that extra something that Hillary didn't have. She not
seems
saying
way
that
nicer
she's
and more personable just by watching her speak and looking at her.
Exactly.
Like,
Hillary
that's 100%.
was a lifelong politician.
Hillary had
Her husband was a politician. She was part of the dynasty, right? The Clinton Bush dynasty. She's part of all. She was
My favorite thing about the whole Clinton dynasty, though, is how it always usually follows with where the body's buried. Like,
right?
There's a body bag train right there for sure.
I don't know what happened or how it happened, but I know the Clintons are involved. Okay.
And there's pizza sometimes.
I know, right?
Yeah. Like, honestly, a woman as president, like women in positions of political power are nothing new. Angela Merkel was in Germany for 20 years. We got AOC and Jasmine Crockett kicking ass in the Senate here. Like, love them or hate them, they're there doing the job. So like that's not anything
even historically
we would be opposed to.
I saw somebody trying to dog on the British Empire, saying like it's just a bunch of men, yada yada yada, and it's like then it got community noted. It's like pretty much for half of all of Britain's rule, a queen was in charge. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sorry,
Like,
what?
it's
Are we
like-
forgetting
yeah.
about like the 30 Elizabeths that they had?
Yeah.
yeah, some of them were crazy.
But
Yeah.
I do think what's going to hurt her more, and this is kind of both sides, is she's like flip floppy. You know, Joe Biden's a racist piece of shit. Just kidding. I'm going to be his VP.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to look out for the average man and cut down on
Yeah.
corporate tax cuts. Just kidding. I'm going to take a few $100 billion from big tech.
Well, also her prosecuting
that's
small marijuana offenses and law and
Yeah,
keeping people
yeah,
in jail
yeah,
so that
yeah.
so that they are now providing cheap labor and laughing about it. It's like, okay, that was the law. That was what your boss
that's
told
politics.
you to do.
That's
Like,
politics 101, guys.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
you do not get into politics without being a flip flopper,
Without you can't have
doing-
strong morals
you
and be a
can't.
politician.
You show me one politician that didn't flip flop, that didn't do as I say and not as I do the situation. And then, but will that really hinder her 100%? And I don't think for the majority it won't, because
flip flop, like you
yeah,
said.
you're always going to have to compare sides. It's
we got a
she
flip-flopper.
lied, Trump lied. I mean, it's really about, at the end of the day, I think America is divided on this 40-40 line, and then there's 20% that is going to determine who gets in there.
Yeah.
I think if you're a Republican, you traditionally voted Republican, you're going to continue voting Republican. And the same thing with Democrats. And then there's this fine line in the middle, is 20% that's like, yeah, I like this side, or I like this person, but this here is just a little bit too far. I can't support, so I'm going to go that way. And those are interchangeable, depending. If you're a morality guy, then hey, you have that to think about.
Yeah.
If you're a which I never understood why people sum up their life or political off of one talking point or one. For example, if I'm anti-abortion,
Yeah.
why does that one subject have to rule everything else that a candidate could? Let's say this person is pro-abortion and I'm anti-abortion. If they cover 90% of the other stuff that I'm for, right? Child care tax credit and stuff like that. If they're for, great roads, infrastructure, if they're for, all the stuff that I care about, why am I going to say, nah, I'm not going to vote for them for that one thing? I never understood that. I think it needs to be a combination of who can give me more. Whoever gives me the more has my attention. And that's really what it is.
Yeah, and I think that means it would feel like you're slotting right into that kind of like that almost independent. Now, I'd like to talk to you guys about RFK, because I feel like there is massive election of interference by keeping him just out of the debates, whether people want to vote for him or not. Just that limitation. But you guys brought up flip-flopping, and I don't think there's another bigger flip-flopper on the ticket than Jay Down Low Couchfucker Vance. Like, the guy is comparing Trump to Hitler, and now he's his VP. And the thing I told my wife is that I'm perfectly fine if somebody gets new information and changes their mind, but in politics we label that flip-flopping. What do you guys think about does this guy fuck couches, or
well, I need some new information before I can totally wrap my mind. No,
you see some pictures. Do you think, like,
if you're my enemy, right, all is well. There is no off limits.
Yeah.
But if you're no longer my enemy, then hey, I mean, think about it. Trump has donated to pretty much every politician's PAC at some point in time. He was in like the Clintons' wedding, their daughter's wedding. Trump was literally tied to every single candidate, like, ever. He was that guy. And that's why it was so hard. It's so hard to pinpoint him when he ran the first time. It was because you can't say that I'm a bad guy now, but but you invited me. Was I a pedo when you invited me to your daughter's wedding? When I was this and I was this great guy?
Like, was in the past tense, does a pedo become like? Is there a past tense pedo? Like,
exactly.
I had a rambunctious
exactly.
youth.
Did the 12
exactly. Yeah, you knew I hung out with Jeff Epstein way back then. That didn't stop you from having me at your anniversary wedding or loaning you money or donating this. And so this is why say what you want, but from a political standpoint, from a streets level, hey, I can fight and box with him. That guy is, I mean, he was born in it. he knows what he can get away with. He knows the streets, and but I do think that his VP choice is going to get swapped out here soon. I don't see Trump keeping him on that ticket because straight out the bat, everybody on both sides is like, this guy's a fucking weirdo, and yeah. And imagine we don't know who Kamala is going to select,
Right?
but if she selects someone that is more moderate, that both sides can can't kind of find a lot of dirt on them.
Yeah.
That's going to be even
like Trump
worse.
did with Pence to kind of lock down the evangelical vote. You know, it's just like,
exactly.
hey, like, because I've never voted for Trump personally, but I was like, I remember going into that election, people going like, oh, he's got, a lot of people like, he's got Pence. Like, I wasn't going to vote for, I remember hearing people like, I wasn't going to vote for Trump, but then Pence pushed them over that line. And that's what the VP can do. And that's what I actually heard as a review of JD Vance, is that when he picked him, people said, oh, Trump has massive confidence that he's going to win. And he would only have picked JD Vance if he had all inclination that he had this locked up. And with Biden, I think he did. I think anybody...
Well, he did with Biden, but this is a whole different ballgame now.
I think what he was going for with JD there was, because the conversation was just around old, like get a younger guy in there and kind of, give this facade of passing off the torch.
An edgelord, if you will.
Kind of just have someone you can fucking prop up here and there and not actually do anything. Like, what does the VP do? Shake hands, ruin the food pyramid.
Right. It's whatever Kamala's been doing for the last 3 years, like where they locked her in a closet and they're like, well, just don't talk. Like, now they're all like, Kamala.
They tend to give him a topic.
But now
they tend to give him a topic and say, hey, go do this.
Yeah, with Biden being out and that old, is not quite a talking point for both sides. Now it's just kind of on Trump. And it's like, okay, well, what did I really pick JD for? Like, just because he's a younger guy, that doesn't really help me that much anymore.
Yeah. Where do y'all fall with the whole RFK stuff, though? Because originally running, he wanted a primary, because that's the one thing that Kamala doesn't have, is she didn't run through a primary. The Democratic, delegates didn't really get to decide back in the day. And, all right, it is what it is. They're coming up on their convention. But RFK entering in the race as an independent, running, is keeping him off the election stage, interference on the electoral level, or is it just like, there's just no way, we're not going to entertain this? What do y'all think?
I'll tell you this, man. I just don't think there's nothing there for him. I literally don't think there's anything there for him. He has a shaky past. Think about it. His family has a shaky past, and not going to conspiracy theory level, but there's just no way a Kennedy is going to, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the mob or whatever, but they say, nobody from your family is ever going to be allowed to
not again
touch that high space ever again. And
only if you drive through Dallas without any kind of roof,
without with a convertible.
You got to ride through Dallas on a convertible as a Kennedy, and if you survive, well, then you've passed the test.
Well, and he has a shaky past too, with the whole Jeff Epstein stuff, being on his
that
plane.
Epstein guy, I tell you, one of the things, the catalyst of Epstein, he has a brain worm.
Doesn't he have eating his brain?
I think they got it, but it's
they got it like a couple weeks ago, right? Like this was recent.
That in and of itself. And then you've seen him talking online on socials where he brings in his ravens. He's talking to these ravens, and I'm like
birds?
what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, just get rid of the
birds. Ravens, or like the NFL team?
Oh, the NFL team would be far better. Hanging out with my favorite NFL team, the Ravens.
Economic plan. What do you think?
Actual ravens that are like on his like at his window.
Hey man, ravens are pretty smart. Or is that crows? Or ravens crows? I'm not a raven. I'm not smart.
Well,
you know what I mean?
You didn't study. You didn't see the notes I sent for the outline. Study up on ravens. We're gonna get real genus, species, history, and obviously Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. So it's like,
I think the bigger issue with RFK though really is just like the whole running as an independent, a two-party system. You got to come out and you got to win, or it doesn't really mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, what if he doesn't win the election, but he gets a majority vote and a new party is registered, now has a seat at the table. Now we've got Democrats, Republicans, and brainworms. I don't know what it would be called, but you know
We've
what I
been
mean?
trying
Like,
that forever.
well, that's
We've been
the
trying
issue.
That would
with
be the
system
symbol. How
forever.
you have the elephant and the donkey, and then you have like a brainworm.
A worm just or an Ouroboros
Yeah.
circling them, but like there's just
Yeah.
never any lasting impact. Like Ross Perot was what 90 or late
He
80s.
got like 20%.
Yeah.
And people say
had
that he would have
impact in
won
that
if people
election.
believed that he could have won, and that was
But
like,
it had no lasting. There was no party introduced.
Right.
There was no new seat at the table. It was just that
Yeah.
kind of one-off thing. He didn't win. Sorry, go home. And
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
ultimately what RFK will end up being. You know.
Yeah. It's
Or he fucking wins, and we got a new. I don't know, man. It's a weird year.
Look, we've had the Libertarian Party, we've had the Tea Party, we've had a bunch of other people, you know,
the Communist Party really like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Listen, you just never know where the future lies.
And that's interesting. Why isn't RFK like running as libertarian versus independent? I feel like a lot of his
I
policies.
think that kind of encompasses part of the libertarian, because I've seen some reports show that he's actually siphoning off more Trump voters than he is or was off of Biden.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's changed with Kamala now being the head of the ticket. And so it's like that in and of itself is just like, yeah, I think when you start to target the center, which is actually the vast majority of all of us, you get that. Like, I would even say, because you said it was like maybe 20% of the center. I honestly think it's 60% of the center, 20% on the fringes, right? And it's those 20% who that's all we hear from. You know, like that's one of the problems with like social media is it makes it to where like, yes, I think most people would look and say, yeah, let's not trans the kids. Like, I think we're good. Just let them turn 18 and do whatever the fuck they want. We're ever like, all right, we can all agree, except for like 20%. They're like, how fucking dare you?
Well, I'll tell you this. It's the smallest of the smallest of the smallest of percent that scream the loudest, that gets the visible. Their policies, the crazy stuff that goes out there, it's out there. It's because the media sensationalizes that. They don't sensationalize the bulk of, right? I think the bulk of Americans care about our borders, our safety. We care about our kids and our kids' safety. We care about being fiscally responsible. We care about, I mean,
I was
when
just
it comes to
thinking none of our national policies have reflected that.
Absolutely. But I'm going to explain that why.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain that why, right? Because you have the will of the people, and then you have the system that was put there by the people on top. That's let's face it, America is run by the corporations, right?
Yeah,
that's not going to change.
Yeah,
the corporate people put these politicians in place. We have roughly 350. I'm just using an average, 350 million Americans. You mean out of 350 million people, you can only come up with 2 geriatric 80-year-old fucking guys to run this country out of 350 million people? We have so many scholars, so many political analysts, so many people who've studied and know what's best for this country, but we choose these people, or we don't choose, right? They're selected. So out of 350 million Americans, 20 people are selected, and then from those selections, they're herded into the final 2, and then those are the people we get to participate in a little exercise, even though it's already selected for us. That's just it. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is, and that's how I believe it is, and I believe that's how it's always going to be, because you're not going to have the change that you need, because people are not going to, those politicians, they're not going to set term limits on themselves.
Right.
They're not going to cut their pay. They're not going to get on a performance pay.
They don't need to cut their pay. They got that whole like stock portfolio. You follow Nancy Pelosi to become a multi-millionaire, and that's the thing that they've done. Like, because I remember when I was a kid, there was all this hubbub about any time Congress voted them to give themselves a pay raise. Well, they've stopped doing that because they're just like, we're just going to do insider trading. Yeah. Everybody cool with that? Oh, it turns out that's way more lucrative.
If you like, let's take a person like AOC, right? Prior to her coming to the Senate, she was a bartender, right? And she'll tell you, hey, I made, $10-15 an hour, as
she
a bartender.
I believe she had $100,000 in debt, and I think that's public record. It was just
like, absolutely. So I guarantee, and something just tells me, I know
her net worth right now.
When she leaves, no, I'm just saying, when she leaves, she's going to be worth millions, and not low millions, but high millions.
Right now,
And she's going to
29.
be
She's
I was
worth
gonna go
29
no, no,
million
no, no,
right
no,
now.
no. Here's the
Don't
thing,
ruin it.
right?
Sorry.
I
Spoiler.
don't know, right?
Yeah,
I don't know, and I don't want to go into the conspiracy theory side of, because I've heard numbers, but we don't know. But I will say this: like
It's more
even
than us.
Obama,
I know that.
when Obama came, right, he's never held a job. He was always a community organizer.
Yeah.
But then when he left office, obviously he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and it didn't come from writing a book. Let's face it, right? But that's just
That
what it is.
Netflix,
And
Netflix deal.
I'm not
Yeah.
harping on him, but it's people prior to him, and presidents prior to him, and politicians prior to him that do the exact same thing. So I'm not going to knock one person for doing it when they all do it. This is a system that was put in place, and it's working the exact way it was intended to work.
Yeah.
Right? You may get a guy that's in there and comes and, yeah, I'm going to make changes, but when you get there, you realize this is a system. There's no change here. This is for longevity. This is how you get the Harry Reid's and the Nancy Pelosi's, the Mitch McConnells, and all these fucking guys that's been there for 70, 80 years. And they won't relinquish power. They have all the donors in their back pocket, and they get to say what goes, and their job is to protect the status quo. Whereas you and I, as average citizens, we're left to just fight with each other over that couple of percentage of why our side is the best side, and it's all bullshit. And eventually one day, we keep saying, we hope that we wake up and say, you're not the problem, I'm not the problem, these fuckers here are the problem. How are we going to get them out, and how are we going to install a new system, or a system that works for the American people?
We see
So
that
one of
same
my-
thing on a microcosm within the teachers. Like I know within education, I've known many people who are like, I'm going to go be a teacher. And they go in and they're going to like, I'm going to really change people's lives. And after about 5 years, they're like, I can't do anything. Like, it's like everything that you need that would be like, this is the logical course. This is what we need to do.
Yeah.
We can't. Hands are tied. And it's like they just get beat down by bureaucracy. And it's like, and then you end up having, basically you churn out all the people you want, and you're only left with people who are just like, well, I can't do anything else. It's like, all right, I guess I'm here. I'm going to be a politician. There we go.
So this is a fun thought. I always like to think, like, imagine, January 6th works. We do that. We rise up. We get in. And
Are you still disappointed?
We got to replace these guys. Well, like, this is like, if the moment ever comes that, we decide to replace these political heads, whether through peaceful or violent revolution, I have no idea. I feel like we'd end up just putting in like fucking NFL coaches as their replacement. Like, I don't think we can really like Mike Ditka's on there. Like, all right, step one of the economic recovery. Like, I don't think
hear you.
we'd make something much better if we got the opportunity. You know what I mean?
That'd be freaking cool. You guys want to talk
Would
about
it?
I think it'd be well, why not just make it pro wrestling? Let's just remove the facade.
Mountain Dew Camacho.
Yeah, and it's like Camacho, but also like we saw Hulk Hogan and the RNC.
Oh my God. We didn't even talk about that.
If John Cena starts showing up, I'm gonna be like, if John Cena shows up in any part of this race for any reason whatsoever, somebody needs to go find Sandra Bullock and rip that fucking typewriter out of her hands, because I swear we're living in one of those fucking movies where woman writes something and it becomes reality, and it's like, no,
it's the Simpsons. It's the Simpsons effect. The Simpsons, like they say, they've predicted everything, and we don't know why, but I'll tell you this, guys. It's embarrassing. It really is on the grand stage.
Yeah,
it is an embarrassment. But
UK had Boris Johnson. We're having our little moment.
Well, no. It's not to compare to everyone else. It's to say, listen, as being here in the greatest nation in the world,
amen,
the richest nation in the world.
Woo.
And us having so
the widest
much
nation. Oh, sorry.
No, he said
hey,
great.
not anymore. That's changing.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah. So it's that being said, people around the world looking at like, these fucking guys are and I can't say the R word, but these guys are fucking nuts. But
Now that is a fun thought.
It's a funny word too. I have a whole bit on, like, I have never in my life thought that I would see that the far left and the far right would unite under the banner of fuck the Jews. And then the same thing with millennials and Gen Alpha under the banner of we like to say the R word.
Yeah, 2024, man. It's a crazy day and age. But I will say this, and I do want to ask you guys this
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Before Rome fell, do you think that they were like kind of we're in that point where it's like we're so rich, we're so carefree for like the necessities, that the stuff that we how we should operate, how we should act, and stuff like that. We should be very serious, but clearly we're not serious when you have Hulk Hogan on the world stage, when you have all these other people right there. Just the fact that Trump even has an opportunity to be in a political sphere, given his background and so, and you know, it's, again, he's a TV show guy, right?
Yeah.
He's Mr. You're Fired. And now there's talks about, oh, we want The Rock, or we want Oprah, or we want. It's like, guys, like, do you see how unserious we are on something that's so important to the world? Because whether you like it or not, these two people are going to be the leader of the free world, and that's a super important situation. That can be a finger snap away from annihilation, if the need rises. I just think we're so serious about shit, and I think the average citizen has tuned out, and we kind of don't care, and that's not a good place to be either, right? So, I mean, what's your thoughts?
I mean, we're definitely in a weird place. It's really, the world economy, definitely, like the inflation, recession. This isn't anything unique to us. COVID really messed things up with the supply chain, but there's definitely parallels to like the fall of Rome. But I think there's also a lot of differences in that, there's definitely the extreme wealth inequality, but I feel like there's more a crisis of faith in a sense. Not in like the religious sense, but like, what does it mean to be American? We just haven't had any huge W's in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Pulling out of Afghanistan was a fucking nightmare. The Trump Biden, that's a clown show. A lot of people under 30 are now poorer than their parents were at 30.
Can't
Like,
buy a
that's the first time
house.
that's happened.
Can't have,
Maybe
They're not having kids. They're not having
you know,
kids.
there's
and the
just
reports show that they want to have kids, but it's just like you're just
Can't afford it.
behind the eight
yeah,
ball.
and the
that,
tax credit, like things like that
Yeah.
are, hey, we want to make corrections to what's happening now, but things
That's
that
why I'm
are
not surprised.
just
more
corporate tax
frustrated.
cuts to Apple, so we
Yeah.
all buy more fucking headsets and iPhones. Like, that's not. Is that what we're working and doing all this for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why it's like we got to keep that GDP going up. Otherwise, like
Yeah.
with Rome, like they had a 1% GDP drop, and they just said fuck it, we're burning the whole thing to the ground.
Yeah.
But
was the
no, it's
pre-game
like
conversation.
that was on the pre-show, guys. If you consider becoming a member, if you're listening to this, and check out, we'll be making exclusive member-only content for you. The one of the things though, like you bring up, like I even forgot the whole fucking thing that I was going to just say because I got distracted.
We need
1%.
something to get behind. What does it mean to be
and-
American in 2024?
Yeah.
What brings us together? As
I think the
neighbors?
last thing that brought us all together was 9/11. Like it's like
Unfortunately,
and
and
unfortunately,
that
I think it ends
wasn't-
up being.
That's not a great thing to bring us together. You know what
I would
mean?
like us to do it without national tragedy. You
but I
would
mean,
think that COVID brought us together for just a very short period of
And
time.
again, with
And then-
disaster or tragedy, that's a band-aid fix. Once
We
you-
operate off of tragedy. I mean, but even if you look at the founding of this nation, right, it was all
Mhm.
tragedy.
well,
just the
it's
founding. So
rich people not wanting to pay taxes.
Well, true, but then
Well, I think it was a little bit more complex than that. It wasn't.
Yeah.
That's where I see people who are like taxation is theft, and so it's like no, like
yeah.
taxation without representation is theft. If
Taxation.
you got to get that
Yeah.
representation. Like I get taxes now. I pay a shit ton of taxes. I don't.
Yeah.
I would like to pay less. I think if they really wanted to impact the economy, stop taxing the middle class and and poor people. Let us just have our money and we'll do things with it. Like that would be really great. I could
Or
get on
actually
board.
redistribute the taxes in a way that, like, the road I'm driving to work every day doesn't fucking suck.
Dude, but that's
the
also
flow
more
of traffic
local.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It is local.
Yeah.
But every state has the federal budget.
Right.
But
But
there's
that
elements
is
that
just
come
where
into
the-
play
like,
with federal
when-
buildings and courthouses
like
and
I don't
shit
need
like
somebody
that.
else taking a cut before it's like somebody was trying to equate socialism with neighbor
I'm
labor.
not
It's
saying take
hilarious.
more. I'm saying take what we use and less to, X, Y, and Z more here.
I get why some of these kids are becoming, Marxist communist, because I get they're angry because they feel and they've been told that they can't get into the system. They can't succeed. They can't win. And I think one of the things that I've seen, and I've seen this a lot, like just to be directly honest, I see this heavily within Black culture from just growing up like around some of my friends. And it's like the ones that I saw succeed, it was all just on this belief. Either I can or I can, the world's against me. And I see this happen within like, if you think about like rednecks and white, like the belief alone that you can do something or you can't. It's so fucking simple that I constantly go back to this with my kids. The Little Engine Who Could. Like it's such a simple book, but that in and of itself, that belief alone, like you're right. It's not it needs to be a religious thing. It's just a belief that either like I can do this or
this work I'm putting into will pay off.
Will pay off at some point. Pay off at some point. And
with that being said though, not to cut you off.
No, jump in. I'm Italian. You gotta jump in on me.
I agree with you. But here's the thing. I believe, right, and this is not necessarily my experience, but I believe is a person that told themselves that they could, and they go out and their whole life, the future that our grandparents kind of established that said, hey, you bust your ass through school, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you retire, and
and then you die.
And in between that, you buy a house, and then you fucking die.
There's some stuff in the middle.
That reality for a lot of people, but that reality for a lot of people just has not panned out. Some person got to go to school. Now these days, they're $200,000 in debt just to have a fucking basic bachelor's degree. They go out there, the jobs is either closing or AI taking over or whatever for whatever.
How many jobs
reasons,
are
right?
just
Various reasons.
soulless work for work's sake?
Yeah, you have to
pouring concrete in the road in your town. You're fucking coding or doing whatever for a business 100 miles away.
Well, our grandparents didn't have to compete with people in China and people in the Asian markets, people in the Indian market, people in Africa, people in all over the world, right? They only had to compete with somebody from this part of town or that state. Well, now our kids have to compete with somebody over in China right now or somebody over in India. And those guys over in China and India are willing to work for 3 cents on the dollar, whereas our kids just minimum wage. X amount of them.
That's a really good point there, too. It feels really like America doesn't have our back as citizens when they just go for the cheaper labor. They don't care where it's coming from. It's like, I would rather go for as cheap as possible than employing the kid that just graduated in the town.
Our companies sold us out. These companies sold America out. The politicians did first to whether it's the free trade agreement or whatever. We've been sold out. We've been lied to. They told all these coal miners back in the day, we're gonna bring these coal miners. That shit is never coming back. Don't fucking let nobody show up to fucking bumfuck Tennessee or West Virginia somewhere, lying to these people, telling them, hey, give me your vote because I'm gonna bring this shit back that went out in the 50s. Those days are over. Even Detroit, right? Back in the day, people used to work for the big three, right?
GM's coming back, dude. It's gonna be their year.
They're coming back. All of this, we're building Detroit back. That shit's never happening, right? Because it doesn't make business sense or money. It doesn't make it makes great American sense to do it, but it makes
good point because like one of the things I jump in on though is like I kind of like trickle that down to the fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, that phrase, because
gotta make more money.
Because like when I've talked to people in those different positions, like especially national security or just what is the better long-term health, we're talking 10 years plus view, everything's been condensed. You got to hit your quarterly goals. It doesn't matter if in 10 years we've completely collapsed this entire industry and it doesn't exist anymore, because we got to do that because we are legally required to, because it is what is in the best interest of the shareholder, which is that we're not investing for 10 years. We're not investing for 50 years in this country. And if we can, we're investing for every quarter and whatever comes out on the report, and then we applaud ourselves or we blame whoever's in charge for doing whatever. And meanwhile,
lap around the sun, guys.
Or we lay off 20,000 people because we wanted to hit this goal. Microsoft, right? But here's the thing. it still
Bought
goes back,
Activision
right?
Blizzard.
And
Fuck all y'all.
by the way, before their slander, I am a capitalist. I do believe in
Capitalism is fine.
capitalist
It's
system.
corporatism. We all like. I think everybody confuses the two. It's like, yeah.
There has to be, and I know people are going to lash for that, but there has to be government oversight. Listen, I'm like everybody else. I'm for small government, but I'm for smart government.
Yeah.
The government is there for a
Efficient
reason. It's to protect us, right? It's to make sure that these big companies don't just fuck us and drain all our pockets and spend all of our social security and spend all of our investments and shit like that, and then say, there's nothing we can do for you. And then there has to be, you have to be smart with that as a nation. And I get it. We became this, it's not only about America anymore. We're a globalist society where all of these American companies have labor over in India and over in Pakistan, over in, the Asian markets.
Manufacturing is a big one.
Manufacturing. Like, there's a lot of physical labor that people can still do here, but we just choose to outsource that elsewhere. Whereas there's a reason why a lot of people go into jail. There's a reason why a lot of people. I mean, you got people over here that they're not scholars. They don't want to go to a 4, 5, 6 year school to go and get their master's degrees or whatever, and to do it that way. Not everyone operates on that level. Some people use trades. That's what we need: mechanics, plumbers, electricians. There has to be skill sets for people who don't go through that system, right? That big system of debt. And that's what the college system has turned out to be. Back in our grandparents' day, going to college was no more than a couple of $100, right? Well, now, good luck. I have one daughter that's out of college,
congrats,
and I got another one that's going to college.
I'm so sorry.
In a few weeks. So
yes, awesome. Yeah.
And I have to fit. I had to fit the bill for that. But there is no way that in my parents' time, I think my parents, to go to college, it may have cost them $3,000-$4,000. Well, shit, it cost me, $50,000. Well, my kids, freaking $120,000.
When did you go to school?
I graduated college in 2001.
Okay, I graduated 2019. I had about 90,000 in debt.
90, holy shit!
Oh,
I played baseball, and so just as a different experience than anybody. So I had a baseball scholarship which covered 90%. But I left university with maybe, and this is because I was stupid my senior year, and I was like, I want to live off campus. I'm going to take out a loan to cover it. That was pretty dumb. But I left college with 10 grand in debt.
That's crazy with a sports scholarship.
My wife is 7 years younger than me. So here's just how that changed in the course of time. I met her when she went into college at 18. I'm no pedo. I was like, oh, you're 18 and a half. Great. She was teasing me about that the other day. And she's like, that's fucking weird now. Like at the time, it was like I was 25. She was 18.
You had tattoos. I knew.
Anyway, so we just as an aside, we tried not to date each other pretty much for a whole half of the year. So by the time she was 19, it's like, all right, we just want to hang out. And she went out on a date with a 24-year-old who was an asshole. So I owe this guy a lot of thanks, because then she was like, this guy sucks. What's one more year, right? What's one more year?
25 is when the brain develops for guys, right?
Right. That's actually as I transition out of my asshole phase and into how do I act like a decent human being that the world doesn't revolve around me? Worked out timing wise, perfection. But we ended up years later getting married, clearly, and she went and got a master's degree. So when we got married, I inherited her $40,000 worth of student loans, and it was holy crap. And then I remember,
is she a housewife? Is she a housewife?
She is a housewife. I'm blessed, dude.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
She went
to
be fair to her and to me, she studied social work, which is
that's actually really solid.
And you want to know, when we talk about people getting lied to, is that everybody in the administration is if you want to do these things in social work, if you want to work for these charities, and it's good work, but it doesn't pay. But you need a master's. You need a master's. You need a master's. That's the drumbeat. She gets out into the field. She's actually working. She worked for the National Kidney Foundation, and it was they do good work. They're it's really about trying to help real people. And nobody went to college. Everybody was making fun of her for having a master's. And it's you're making 30,000 maximum cap. Maybe you'll get to 32. Good luck. You know, and it's like, and you now you're 2 years salary without doing anything else in the hole. You know, when you're starting out this life, it's like, good night. Yeah. And then what
Jesus.
so that's all.
Well,
So you're 2019 and you had 90, or do you still have 90?
We're down to 50.
All right, guys, like and subscribe
know
to the
why I'm
podcast.
trying
We
to
gotta
pay
get this monetized for Dante.
Jesus.
But I don't know.
Well, let me tell you guys something, right? So as I will say this.
Are we going to talk about video games?
We will talk about. I think we're going to do Deadpool.
I just realized
the whole political
this.
situation is a video game. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, pretty much is. I will say this. The student debt that I had, I could have paid it over 1,000 times since then. I just always refuse, and I just always say, "Hey, listen, I'm just gonna take this shit to
That's kind of where I'm getting to. Is
because listen, I bankrupt it. I'm
on the board of so many charities and so many everything else on the board of the school that I graduated from. But I will say this: I received an email about, I need to look, but let's call it a year ago, call it 6-7 months ago, whatever, that said that my student loan debt was forgiven.
You're a unicorn.
So you've been
dude, listen. If you know me, nothing happens unless I do it. Yeah. I'm like, I don't win obviously lotteries, but I don't win like when you go to casino and stuff. I'm that guy. I never win anything. It's never on my radar. But this felt like I won the lottery. Not that I couldn't have been paid it off. I had no intention on paying it off.
So I paid it
plus
off.
Plus it wasn't it wasn't, you know, it wasn't much. It was like $30,000, but I felt like I won the lottery. Then like I picked that golden ticket at the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It was like, holy shit. And then I thought about it. I was like, shit. I was like, baby, I wish this was you. I wish you would have. I wish yours was
right.
But I will say this: that Joe Biden pulled through for me on that. Yeah. You know, and
the only concern I have is that what happens next, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm perfectly fine if we want to say, fuck it. All right, this is a problem. People aren't being able to buy houses and start families, which has a real. The reality of life is we don't do that. We're not going to have enough people that we need, and everybody's like, oh, the world's overpopulated. No. Like as much as I love and respect
everybody's having this problem.
There is a group on this planet that doesn't really care for women's rights, and they're having a metric crap ton of children, and it shows in the demographics data. That is a replacement system. That is a system that will, if we can't defend ourselves, we need, especially men, to help defend the fact that if you want borders at all, like otherwise it's just gonna, like, you extrapolate that over 50 years, there's a real problem. So like if they want to go off and forgive student loans, I'm great. Like, all right, fine, cool. That's what we want to do because this is a problem.
But to be fair, I have 5 kids, so I've did my duty,
dude. Yeah, thank you.
I've did my duty,
dude. I have a whole bit about like how like the birth rate's fallen to a 1.6 here in the country, and good game, ladies, good defense. Really, y'all playing a hell of a game, And then it's like, fellas, let's minus. Like, what the fuck, man? You gonna let a little tic tac? You gonna let a tic tac beat you? You gotta. No. I need you to get in there. And I need you to stay in there, So still working on it.
The reason behind that, right, is it's multiple reasons.
Yeah,
it's the cost of living is too expensive. People literally can't afford it. If you have one kid and you have to pay $3,500 a month for daycare, well, how much of your salary is $3,500? To a lot of people, that's 60%, 60 to 70% of their salary. So
we ran my wife.
They're gonna figure out how. Yeah.
We ran my numbers on my wife, and it would cost us $5 an hour for her to work.
Yeah.
Stay home and clip coupons, some people, and we'll make more, and we'll have more money in our pockets.
Well, here's the thing, right? And this comes from, maybe people may call me a old fart or the old way of thinking, but there was a time in history where the woman had a role and the man had a role.
Yeah.
Right. The man would go and work, provide food, sheltering, protection, and guidance for his family. And the woman would stay home, have the kids, take care of the man, take care of the food, the clothing, and the necessities. Super important. That position is super important. And obviously, society has denigrated to make it seem like, oh, home
Oh,
mom,
how dare
you're,
what a
yeah, it's so
this isn't
archaic.
work.
But
No, it's fucking work.
exactly. So when you take a mindset like that, that actually worked. There's thousands of years that show that this model worked. And now you come to the new model. The man doesn't get money for education, for skills, so they can go and better themselves. But all the money goes to the women, right? So the women go out, get these degrees, $100,000, $200,000 in debt. Then they get tired of working because, oh, I'm tired of working. This is not for me. And then they want to have kids, but then you got all of this debt. And then good luck getting a guy that wants to take on all of that shit, all of that. I mean, your situation is different because you guys are married, but you had to look at that and be like, fuck, $90,000 worth of I'm gonna have to take this on. That was a decision that you made. But if all of these women are going for those positions now, and then the men obviously aren't getting the funding, they aren't getting opportunities, they have to get it out the mud, right?
Oh, and you
There's
get
a
a
shitload of
and then you get a bunch of men who can't or don't want to date, and you just have a bunch of horny young men with time.
they
on
can't
their
afford
hands,
it.
and then you
Can,
have
can
Microsoft
you afford
raising
it?
the price of Game Pass, and then
Can you afford?
That's
take
the
to
can
the
you
bigger
afford
issue
a
streets?
you're
date?
honing in on right there
Can
is
can you in this modern day, can you really afford a date?
and
You're
that's
gonna
the
have
thing.
to
Regardless of the gender roles, man, woman does whatever. Why is it when two earners in the household became the norm in the 80s, it still feels like everyone's drowning? Why isn't everyone driving Mercedes and living the good life?
The answer is debt.
It's economic.
It's economic.
It's
but
not
it's
about
also,
gender roles. It's about what are we getting paid.
It's
not
debt.
enough.
We've
I meant to tie that. I meant to
indentured a
tie
whole
that in with the
generation.
student loan debt,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
this guy, this guy, he isn't making what he need to support a family, to get the woman.
Yeah.
But the woman has been getting all the resources from the government to go ahead and rack up all of this debt. And now the two meet. He can't afford the woman can, she has $200,000 in debt. That's a recipe for disaster when it comes to having kids. That's the point I was making on
Kind
that.
of back to the student loan thing, though. Honestly, like, I think a band-aid fix would work. Like, just forgive a generation, and then you have two options. The government steps in and puts price caps on institutions, or you let the market correct itself. You tell a whole generation, fuck college, that's a waste of money.
Yeah.
Go to trade school. Watch enrollments drop. Watch tuitions drop. That's capitalism at work.
And the tuitions would absolutely fall, like, especially because, like, the one thing I wish that they could change is make the loans bankruptable. So then all of a sudden, the bank who's giving the loan is able to sit here and go, like, what are you studying, and what are your chances going to pay?
We're not letting an 18-year-old take this much money.
Right? You want to go study like social work and whatnot? Fuck no! Like, there's no way you're going to ever pay this back. And then you bankrupt it, so that it ends up being that stopgap. And then, yes, you see prices come down. You see, people can still go, but you're going to see that obviously incentivized into fields that they can actually accelerate and make money, or that there's a huge demand for, right? And so that's the, like, if any politician said that, like, that would be something I'd be like, okay,
that's government
you can forgive all the fucking loans, make that one change, let's go. Yeah.
Is that not socialism or communism, though? That's government oversight. That's not capitalism doing it.
Let's face it, right?
I just think that's why people would be opposed to that, is what I'm saying.
America is one big fucking hypocrite, and us citizens, we are to an extent. Yeah. We say we're not for socialism and communism and shit like that.
Then we got libraries and police.
We don't want nobody to touch our fucking Social Security, right? Yeah. We don't want nobody touching our Social Security, which in itself is socialism, right? You pay into a system.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
It's hypocritical.
Really it is a government-funded Ponzi scheme.
Well, not for us, but it is for guys.
I'm not going to probably see a cent, and I've been paying into Social Security since I was like 16. So it's like,
what if, right? They say, hey, listen, we understand. Here's the problem. You're 50 years old now. Just throwing that number. You're 50 years old now. We would normally take Social Security from you from here all the way to 65, 70 or whatever. From 50 years old now, we're no longer going to take Social Security out. You'll get that money, invest it however you see fit. The money that came hey, sorry, but you're probably not going to, You know, because there's going to come a point in time where there's just no money there for us, but
Well,
we've already paid into the system.
I
So
think
at least
more.
you have 15 years of your life from that point to get that money and invest it the best way you can, because come 65 or 70 or whatever,
I
you
think
kind of like
instead
on
of
your
just
own.
kind of giving that option to everyone, just look at someone at 50 years old. Oh, you have $50 million in assets. You want to opt out of Social Security? You don't need this. Like, do you mind if we redistribute this to someone who does? Because you talk to someone making $60,000 a year, maybe they got $800,000 in savings. They're gonna be like, "Yeah, dude, I fucking need Social Security."
Right.
Whereas the
It's a
guy that
part of the
bought
plan.
Apple for $4 a stock in 2004, now it's selling at $600 a share. He doesn't need it, but they take it anyway. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys want to talk about some Deadpool and Wolverine?
Deadpool was so good, dude. Did you see
Oh,
Deadpool, Jay?
I have not. I'm going this weekend
Oh,
to
dude, we
steal my
can't.
All
kid.
right, all right. We'll
There's
save
so
it.
many good
No,
spoilers.
no. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going to take the kids to
Yes.
see it this weekend.
And
but
your kids are grown. I was like, yeah, that's a great. Wait, no, my kids are young.
But well, my girls are grown. My boys are still, they're still young. So I'm going to take them.
Say 13.
So,
and
but
up
we
is
can
fine.
still we can still talk about it. I heard. Well, no, this is not going to be a spoiler-free show, obviously. So whoever's watching this is going to. I haven't even watched the movie, but because I'm
Any
on the
spoilers.
internets, right?
Yeah.
I've seen that Blade makes an appearance.
Oh, dude, it's so good. It's
I've
so
seen,
good. It's so
Woo!
good.
It was
That's what I
great.
don't want to ruin. I'm
I was scrolling down Twitter. Y'all
Yeah.
know what I do. I'm a Twitter head. Scrolling down Twitter, and I saw an interview with
Wesley Snipes?
Yeah.
with Wesley Snipes. I saw an interview with Wesley Snipes, and he was talking about how Ryan Reynolds called him or whatever in that conversation, and I was like, this is the biggest spoiler in the world. Holy shit.
Mhm.
But I wasn't mad, because just the fact that happened, I'm like, oh shit, this movie is going to be epic. And then some other things that I've heard in there, I was like, oh shit, okay. So go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
Okay, if we can talk
Let's
about
talk
Blade.
about it.
My
All right.
favorite thing about Blade is, because this is 100% what happened, is Ryan Reynolds definitely called him, was like, hey, Wesley, I don't care what you do. You can do whatever you want. Just come play Blade for like 20 minutes. Is that cool? And Wesley's like, all right, I'm going to have a Jerry curl. I'm going to have a little gray soul patch. I'm not using a sword. I'm really into Kokiri knives now. Like, it was Blade, but it was so different. It was just like whatever Wesley's into now was the character he was playing. And I was like, dude, I fucking love this. I fucking love this so much.
Dude, I was having to educate Julie on that, and we left the theater, and she's like, "What was going on?" I was like, "Oh wait, here's the history. Blade was the first kind of like a movie, and it was Marvel. You got the half vampire. He's badass, and then they made 3, and I was like, and in the third one, Ryan Reynolds was in that movie, and so I was like, okay, that was fun. And then obviously they've been working on another Blade. They're working on a video game that like Microsoft's got the rights to, that will be multi-platform, because of course
it's a great IP.
Yeah, and it's like, the Blade IP is so, I think, fun. I think it is a great, like, you get the monsters, you get like, and then I told her the story, because it's like, if you want to go look at some bad CGI now, a movie
Blade
that
1.
didn't age well is the first Blade with the Blood God, and you're like, as a kid, I was like, when I watched that, I was like, this is so cool. Then you fast forward 20 years later and you go see that, you're like, this is like, whoa, like this, you can see the computers that are on fire trying to generate this thing. And so it was like, okay, that was pretty crazy. And so I was so excited to see that, but it wasn't just Blade. You have Elektra, you got Gambit finally making a big screen appearance. Dude, Gambit was phenomenal.
I didn't even know Gambit was in it.
Oh yeah,
I didn't even know
I'm not gonna
Gambit
tell you
was in it.
who plays Gambit.
I'm shocked by how much I enjoyed him. He's definitely I'm a little bit younger. Gambit's always kind of been like the meme hero or villain, I guess, in the X-Men universe. He's actually like,
they memed the crap out of him too, and it's perfect. Like, you can't understand him. Because he's so French Canadian, is the Cajun. It's just like, did anybody know what he's saying?
So let me ask you guys this. Was that the movie you wanted them to make? Or was it, because it's still a Deadpool movie, right?
Yeah.
But it had so many different added pieces in there for, I'm assuming, right? The fact that you got Wesley Snipes in there, the fact that you got Gambit. it's more of a feel good piece in that for us old heads that grew up
There's
with.
definitely nostalgia bait dripped throughout of
Okay.
it. And so like just from
Okay.
the music alone, my wife actually was, we left the theater,
A
she
little
goes,
Madonna.
Madonna, In Sync, and so
Bon
many more
Jovi.
things like that. That it's that my wife's like, I wonder what our kids will think of this when they're old enough to watch it, because they didn't grow up and hear all this
Yeah.
music, and then it will have the same thing that resonates. So there is, and that's actually what I was gonna say without actually saying any other characters that show up. This is such a great homage to the history of the X-Men franchise, and kind of in a way like a really respectful way to send it off, and at the same time be irreverent, especially with the opening. I'm not going to ruin that for you, Jay. The opening of this movie
so
is
good.
so insane,
So good.
and it sets a great tone because you're like, are they going, like, is this is the Disney universe, like what are they, what's going to happen? And it's unapologetically Deadpool, you know, and it's like it really gets into it, and that's actually refreshing. And the thing I said, and I tweeted this out, I was like, superhero fatigue is not real. Bad movie fatigue is the problem.
Bad stories.
And we haven't had that. This was such a character story. And Wolverine, like even Hugh Jackman said it on the Hot Ones interview. He goes, he announced his retirement, and then 3 days later Deadpool came out, and he was like, no, what did I do? Why did I announce my retirement from this character? Because he is the perfect pairing.
Yeah.
Because they have the same powers, that, you know, like all of these things. And it was just, and it was so great. And he was such a great Wolverine in that. And then I thought they did, I thought it was great. So I was just entertained from start to finish. I will see that movie again if given the opportunity. It's a fun movie, and
I feel like there's a lot of references I missed on the first watch.
There is
that,
a ton. I
not
know.
Even like
I haven't
dialogue,
even
with like little pieces in the background.
One of my things that I love to do after seeing like a movie or show is like to go online and see like all the Easter eggs and hidden things that you might have missed. And it's like those videos are an hour and a half for this movie because that is just, there's so much like that is just put in, and it honestly just feels, one of the things that I felt as a fan who, even in Marvel's darkest hour, like in their struggles that they've had over the last couple of years, where it's like I can find things that I enjoy about those movies, but I can also say that there's something just missing in all of the in these movies after Endgame, minus I thought Spider-Man they've done a decent job at, but like I guess my biggest critique was WandaVision into Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange. Like it felt like you're trying to say that this is required watching material, and then you don't even watch it, and you don't like it has nothing of that connection. So it does. I don't understand how we got from A to B because we went in one direction on the show, and then the movie is like, oh screw that, we're gonna make her the villain right out the gate. You know, it's like, okay, interesting.
There's definitely like you could definitely watch some shows or extra stuff to enhance the Deadpool experience. Like I'm sure they make references to Loki or something. He talked about it in the movie. But more than like any of the other
episode
movies,
he was like, Loki season 1 episode 5. I was like, which is
like
great.
More than anything, just like thematically the movies are tight. Deadpool 1's a love story, chasing the girl, getting the girl, going through that whole arc. Deadpool 2 is about dealing with a dysfunctional family, your differences, working them out. Deadpool 3, it's all about just like wanting to matter, be important, leave a legacy. And I felt like thematically that worked so well with like Blade and Elektra and some of the other characters, and like Wade's kind of journey. So you know, it's not about the big CGI in the budget. It's just about telling a story that resonates with an audience, and just like the whole trying to be important Wolverine Deadpool, it works so well in this movie. I was shocked by how much I enjoyed it. I really had no expectations, or oh man, that was weird with Cable in the last one. Are they gonna time travel some more? I don't know what's going on.
What do you guys think about Cassandra Nova, which isn't spoilery at all because she's in the trailer? What did you think about her as a character?
I really liked how much you had to figure out about her by just watching the scenes play out. There was no big dramatic introducing Cassandra Nova, psychic abilities, brother, sister. Like it was very dialogue heavy, watching her rip the guy's spoiler, you know. You saw her character come out. You didn't get told who her character was.
I loved her character, especially with contrast that when you think of Professor X's character. In and of itself is like caring, loving, how do we better humanity? And then you don't get any of that with Cassandra. And you're like,
Absolutely the
oh,
negative.
you mean Professor X could be this badass and just like, no wonder he's an Omega level mutant. No wonder people are just like, holy crap, dude, mutants are a problem. And it goes in and just brings in that thing. And the references where people would just kind of like complain about mutants. Oh, fucking mutants.
Yeah.
You know, it was also really nice because to hear that term brought into the MCU after so long, and they did it originally with Kamala Khan. They kind of teased that in her series, and I thought that was a nice little touch. But now to have it actually like on screen, on cinema, we're using this word, like, let's go. This is, for me, as somebody who, like, the X-Men movies were hit or miss. Like even the Wolverine, like X2 was amazing. X-Men Origins, it struggled, and the fact that they could kind of meme.
They didn't.
Go ahead.
They didn't know what they want to do. I mean, I don't know. They just didn't know what they want to do because.
But can we at least
like
admit Sabretooth and Wolverine were awesome in that movie? The movie as a whole was bad.
No,
but Lee Schreiber was sweet as Sabretooth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They did a good job. Like it's like there are things that I can say I can always pick out things that I enjoyed, but it felt like this was so crafted. Like it was so intentional that I felt as a fan, if somebody who's seen all of these movies, it wasn't just like, oh, hey, remember this? Or, oh, hey, remember that? It was like, oh, and here's this character and they actually add to the scene, you know, like, and if you've seen those past movies, you're going to have a history and context. But if you haven't, you're not left out of the dark.
You could absolutely watch them stand alone. They're self-contained stories. They tell you everything you need to know for that story. You know?
Well,
Absolutely.
one thing I'm excited about, not just necessarily to see this movie, but to tie it all together, is Sony's Insomniac. Due to their leak that they had, we saw their whole track record of Marvel MCU movies all the way to 2035. That includes the X-Men movie, that includes Wolverine, that includes
till you're 90.
Man, it was a lot. Yeah, it was another Spider-Man, a Venom game, Carnage. It was a lot of stuff in there. But the fact that we're finally going to be able to play a full X-Men game with all the characters back, dude, like that was like a little watershed moment. It's like, okay,
and if Insomniac is leading the charge on this, like that means
Insomniac. You can't, exactly. These guys don't make a dud.
High quality. That in and of itself would be like, whoa, what happened? What's wrong with it?
Yeah,
X-Men Legends.
I think we can all say now that we all trust Insomniac. At this point in time, they're carrying at least PlayStation. They're carrying PlayStation on his back because they haven't made a bad Marvel game.
CG Project.
No. I'm not.
He's got good devs. Publishers.
True, but what I'm saying is I'm saying the amount of games that these guys output.
Yeah.
Right. They put out Miles Morales, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2. I already said Miles Morales, Ratchet and Clank, right? Then we got Wolverine next year, right? And then on and on and on around this list that leaked that showed their whole stuff. Dude, these, like, I'm just saying, like, they put out games that doesn't take 50 years to make, whereas Sony Santa Monica shit normally takes 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog, they normally take 6 to 7 years.
And that's just for PlayStation. PC port, that's 20 years from now.
Absolutely.
It's actually coming much sooner. They've tightened up that turnaround, and the whole thing I'm just waiting for, because
for the live service games.
Well, the whole thing I'm personally waiting for, especially in terms of just like the console war that happens over on Twitter, which is honestly the best comic. It is, if you treat it like comedy, you're gonna have a fun time, and if you don't, it's really depressing. But I am just waiting for them as a part of their PlayStation Cloud stream.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead. To have like, oh, I just boot up the PS5 in the cloud, no physical console in my house, and then I'm gonna tweet out, day and date, y'all. I told you it was coming, because at that point I'm playing on my PC. I don't care where the PlayStation is, right? Like, and that's gonna be the thing that I'm gonna kind of be like,
can you? Let me think. Can you? No, you can't.
It's on its way. I was told that I'm in beta testing right now, and I think even Chili said that he believes that it can be done. Because the one thing I'm waiting for, I will buy a PS Portal the second it just lets me connect to the PS5 in the cloud. And the cloud on the PlayStation lets you play the games that you own, where I don't know what the fuck was going on with Microsoft and why their xCloud is still, and that's actually what I was like, outside of this year alone, Microsoft has been, they've been making stupid decisions. They've been getting their ass handed to them by gamers and frustration with their marketing and confusion. But the one, I thought they had a great presentation in their E3,
the last showcase.
I thought they really hit home with a lot of really great games. I'm excited about those games, but they did not spend any time talking about xCloud, which I was like, y'all said this is coming.
Now.
It feels like it's an afterthought, and I'm like, why?
PlayStation has 4K.
Are they just
4K? Their cloud is 4K now. Like, well, Xbox still is 720p.
Is Xbox just going to let NVIDIA GeForce Now basically kind of be that, and they just say, hey, we have a service, it's there, but they also have all those games on GeForce Now. That's where I play them, and
Ubisoft has the rights to their cloud stuff. So I don't know, man. Microsoft is when it comes to Xbox, they're in just nobody knows. Like we don't know. You think they're gonna do this, but then they do this that really just undercuts this. And so even with the Xbox hardware, these guys are pretty much all intents and purpose they've given up on the hardware. They don't even, matter of fact, they say everything that they mention says no console needed.
Right. They have a whole deal for Amazon Prime. Like, get a Fire Stick, and here's the thing with Ultimate, and here you go.
Get your controller,
that's where they've been
matter of fact, they bundled
the
package together. And so think about it. They've only sold 20, 22, 23 million consoles, 2 next generation consoles combined. That's less than the 360. That's less than the Xbox One. What is it going to take for them to sell some consoles? I don't know, because they're giving you Game Pass, which is supposed to be go ahead.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Still muted.
You're muted.
I got an answer.
There we go.
There you go. Go ahead.
Sell me a fucking video game console. I don't care if it plays YouTube. I don't care if I can go on Facebook. I don't care if I can add my friends I want to play video games. That's about it. Like, they've been so game adjacent and all the shit they've been promoting in the last decade, whether it's the Connect or the online all the time, connect with your friends, watch Netflix while you're playing, or, we're not going to do private games anymore. Whereas Sony has just been like, hey, this thing fucking plays video games. Ratchet & Clank's pretty cool. Astro Room's pretty cool. Go check that shit out. We don't care if you're watching Netflix.
I'm excited about Astro Bot.
Yeah. Hey, listen, look. Listen.
And then
I'm
Microsoft
all for it.
Fucking up Halo Infinite with the Battle Pass. Like, they're very clearly just trying to generate revenue, not put out quality products. And until they, dedicate or let studios like Insomniac do the fucking work, they're not gonna recapture that spark that Xbox 360 had, I don't think.
I don't see them going into the consoles are our future kind of business. I think that when you look at their PC, like they'll, with
people still like their separation of spaces. I think it's nice to have the console in the living room, the computers, my office that I'm working at.
What I don't see though is
there's just so very little of those people left. That's the problem. There's only 20. Like right now, PlayStation is sold 65, 67. 68 million
holy shit
in 3.5 years.
They'll cross 100
in 3.5 years, right? In just 3.5 years, Xbox is still sitting around the 20 mark, right? So that says, as a gamer, for whatever reason, you make think whatever, however you want to justify it, gamers are saying, we don't really fuck with this like that.
We don't want the bells and whistles. We just want to play video games. I really think,
I think so. How many of those Xbox guys from last generation are there left? Some of them went to PlayStation, some of them went to PC, others went elsewhere. Cloud. Some people went to cloud. Some people, but we know they're not going to Xbox, the console, and that's the problem. They got the world's most powerful console. They got the world's cheapest console. They got the world's best service with Game Pass. They got the cloud. They got the web
I will
browsers,
fight
the
you on all of these
phones, the
points.
mobile. No. Listen. I'm saying that to make a point.
Yeah.
They offer you a million ways to play Xbox, and yet gamers are like, yeah, we're gonna go over here and buy a PlayStation or buy.
I'll say right
Xbox.
away, the more powerful console, I'm pretty sure it's about same, or the PlayStation edged it out until they had the Xbox Scorpio S or whatever, like the performance-based model.
The one,
So that was pretty neck and neck for a while. And then the other thing you mentioned, Game Pass. Game Pass is sick, but their model, PlayStation just does it way better. They did PS Now like 2 or 3 years before Game Pass, and their main focus was backwards compatibility. Hey, you want to play PlayStation 1 titles, PlayStation 2? Here's 1,000 to pick from because they're like 20 megabits each. You can stream half of them. It's way easier on our end to design this system.
Right.
Whereas Game Pass, they're like, oh, we're going to get you brand new games day one. You don't got to go to the theaters or to
not
rent
anymore.
it.
Not anymore. And
Well, because it was so difficult and it just wasn't a monetary beneficial model. You know,
if I wasn't on the ultimate, if I wasn't on the ultimate tier, because like I like that service as a parent, it is a value. It is a value driven service for me, with me and the kids, and like just all kinds of games that they play. That people like to meme on me when they see me in Discord. They're like, "How's Paw Patrol, Brian?" I'm like, that ain't me, bro.
Great, Kevin, actually. Like, Season 5's heating up.
It's incredible, man. You know, like Chase, he's going through something right now, but we're going to get through it. I know we're going to stick through it on that Paw Patrol.
I think but Ginger, better.
Think about it, though. Think about it. You have the kids, and you have Game Pass for them. What's the biggest games that they're playing? The biggest games that they play is Roblox.
Yep.
Fortnite,
Pal World,
Minecraft,
dude.
right?
If you have PS
Outer World, right? So now check this out. If you have a PlayStation 5, they have those same games on the PlayStation 5. For example, my kids had a Series S. Each one of them had a Series S. They only played it for Roblox and Fortnite and Minecraft. The moment Sony announced Roblox coming to PlayStation, they were done with those fucking Xboxes.
Yeah, they're like, we're good.
There was no sense of all of that. Those same games that are in Game Pass are in PlayStation Plus. On top of your God of Wars, on top of your Days Gone, your Ghost of Tsushima's, your Sly Coopers,
Jack and Dexter,
and all even more games than Game Pass. Like PlayStation has 1,000 games. I think Game Pass has like 200, right? 200 some plus games, right? But PlayStation actually has the GOTY winners. Xbox don't have GOTY winners.
And PlayStation gets games, and Xbox, like, not even, it doesn't seem like PlayStation's even throwing money at the game. It's just like,
they're not.
What was
by default
the Marvel versus Capcom, and oh yeah, just not on Xbox. Okay, and it's like that story in and of itself is just that ball rolling down the hill. I don't think you can reverse that. I don't think you can roll that back up and be like, like this year, like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Awesome game on PC, on PlayStation. Guess where it's not? Not on Xbox.
And
that is what you were saying earlier.
Hey, listen, even the Lego games, even Lego Horizon,
right?
Yeah. Well, Lego Horizon, right?
Yeah,
is going everywhere, but where? Xbox. It's even going to Nintendo, but it's not going to Xbox.
See, now that's disrespectful.
But Xbox's games are going to PlayStation, and they're actually doing really well. Like the people, and guess what? They're fun games. Like I am, and Jay knows this about me. I've been advocating for this for a long time. That's why I love being called an Xbot or a Sony pony, because it's just like, no, I'm for players getting to play wherever the hell they want. Cloud is that bridge that means you don't have to do extra work as the dev, meaning I don't need to make a version of this on the Xbox. I just need to enable Xbox to connect to this cloud service. Bada bing, not a problem. But when it's said and done, when I look at these games that are like on the way, like I'm so fucking excited for them. Like it's going to be so much fun that I just cannot wait to go hands-on with it. And you look at Sony and they're just firing on all cylinders. They're disciplined. Yeah, I don't think there's some things I like that they do. I think that I would like them to do other things. But you see Microsoft bringing their games to Sony and selling well. Like I am advocating for the Gears of War as a series to come to PlayStation. I think that would be exciting, because as a player who enjoys those games, especially in the multiplayer mode, having more players, 50, 60 million potential new players in your lobbies means quicker matches. And it means your game has a longer life. Your community around your game is actually bigger, and there's not these walls of like blue versus green or red, you know, like no, it's like, oh, well, let's let's get in the game. You know, let's play and then call it a day.
I want to say this. Jez Courtney said something last year. I recorded it on my phone, but him and Randall Thor, they have a podcast, and Jez said this. I want to say a year ago. It could have been a slightly before, but it still resonates to this day. He said, "I just feel like Microsoft or a bunch of suits that are in this thing for money and not for the artistry and the craft."
That's exactly what it is.
And the love of making games. Whereas Sony, these guys get it. They're in the love and the artistry. Think about it. They make movies, they make music, they make cameras, they make consoles. They're in it for the love. Like you can tell the love and the craft of a Sony first party game. It just
if that ever
it's just
changes, that's where you see like it becomes a house of cards.
Absolutely. Listen,
it's a positive,
if it changes, I'm out. I'm out.
The positive is the quality they put in, but that also in and of itself is like that means from just a cost perspective, and we've seen that in the leaks, that it's that they're willing at least to put in that $300 million for Spider-Man 3.
They're the last company. They're the last company out here, guys, that's willing to spend $300 million for a single player game, not a multiplayer.
People are going to be in 10 to 15 hours, maybe, you know, and it's like, all right, but
it's worth it. It's the cost. It's the cost of doing business to get people to buy your hardware, to get people to buy your VR, to buy your portal, to buy your games, to buy everything, to the monitors, headphones. It's the cost of doing business. You're number one in gaming from a console perspective or whatever. That's just the cost of it. And I like that with a company. Sure, they could do what Microsoft is doing and go for the money and just focus. But when you do that, everything else, the quality tends to suffer. And there's a difference. Microsoft will be fine if Xbox doesn't do well or if Xbox goes away. Sony will go under if PlayStation doesn't do well. And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
Right. It's just one other revenue stream for Microsoft, but it is one of the key pillars for Sony. Yeah, it's and many times that have been a lifeline where PlayStation has been the profitable division where their TVs or like whatever, because markets ebb and flow, things go up and down. So it's like, it is that consistency. The only thing I think,
Sony, they have a PlayStation 5 inside of their car.
Yeah,
they have a PlayStation inside. That tells you, like, when they talk about the whole synergy shit, most of the time when companies say that, it's all bullshit. But with them, they're like, no, this goes together. Because guess what? We make the movies, so that means we have the cameras, we have the motion capture technology that the video games movies do it. The soundtrack to these video games are made by our music, right? We have our music, so we're paying ourselves. We have our artists making music for that. We have TV shows that we're leveraging from our IPs. We have our hardware, custom controllers, custom this and that. We have our cars. We have our audio speakers. Like everything that evolves around PlayStation is somewhere in some other facet of Sony's corporate structure somewhere. And that makes sense, from the movies, the TV shows, the toys, the Lego thing. I know a lot of people think that it's small. That's a huge deal.
Well, you make a really
huge deal.
You make a really good point there too. Like all those other things that Sony are involved in, at the end of the day, are entertainment. You know, you're putting something out for people to enjoy. You look at everything else that Microsoft is involved in; it's products to be sold to a consumer. They want you to just buy shit. Like that's kind of bleeding into Xbox.
The one thing I would push back on that I wish Sony would do a better job at when it comes to their just their entertainment products is the Spider-Man universe that they own. Either give that back to Marvel and sell it to them, like make that Disney money, or
they'll never do it.
I know. It's like, or like their video games are great, but their universe is so frazzled and broken where they're trying to make all these Sinister Six without Spider-Man at all. And it's just like, as a fan, as somebody who looks at the MCU Spider-Man and even the original Spider-Man trilogy and the the follow-up Amazing Spider-Man and more, like, I'm like, come on guys, like figure this out, please. Like, and I'm hoping, because the Into the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales, like that is the exception to this rule. Like they have been knocking that out of the park. I cannot wait for the third movie. And I'm just like, hell, if you guys want Sony, just make a Miles Morales, Spider-Man universe that's adjacent to the MCU Spider-Man, and people will be fine with it. I think they'll love it.
There's more at play there. Now, here's the thing, from the way I understand it. Sony owns the video game rights. No, they own is it the movie rights or the
to the Spider-Man?
They own the movie. They own the movie rights.
I believe they worked out a deal. They keep Venom.
Okay,
because Marvel has Spider-Man now.
Well, he's shared. It's like they have a special.
Spider-Man hasn't been in a Sony movie since Marvel took over. We've had Venom, we've had Carnage, but Spider-Man is no longer a movie. Sony
he was supposed to show up in the Madam Web movie, and they cut that scene. I think rightfully so, because they realized just how much of a garbage fire that movie ended up becoming.
There's a lot to play into that. It's not just Sony. You got to take Marvel into account. You got to take who else? Is there another person in there?
Disney, I'm sure.
Yeah, you got to take Disney,
Mickey's
right?
Gotta get his cut. That was actually great about Deadpool, just as a kind of a callback. Literally, while he's suiting up and you have like
Disney
the
stuff.
White glove just grabbing him, and it's like
I can't wait to see that movie.
It's great. It is so great.
I can't wait to see that movie.
I can't wait till you see it.
I'm going to see it this Friday with the kids, so I'm definitely going to double back around on the podcast.
All right, sweet. So get you back next week. Fuck yeah, let's go.
But there's more at play there. I honestly believe if Marvel and Disney would just let Sony do what they need to do for that, they would find some kind of way to knock it out the park, to do it their own specific way, tied into the video games, tied into everything else. But because all these other factors at play, you got all these heads that say, yeah, no, and it just makes it where you're only going to keep getting kind of what you get, because everybody's hand is in the pot, and their hands are in the pot because it's their money. Everybody wants the majority of the pot, but nobody wants to put in the work and the effort. So that's why I would love to see just one movie, like, you don't even have to call it the Avengers, right? But call it something. But it has all of these characters like X-Men, Spider-Man, Hulk. It just has everybody in there.
I think that is just one big with the Avengers, Doomsday and
here's the thing. I want to see that. I don't want to see Disney or MCU in their current form do it. Just because it's been so much like super badass action scene, schlocky one-liner joke, keep everything moving forward and very surface level. Whereas
the Avengers, the people who make the Avengers movies are top notch.
Yeah.
The people who make the Captain America movies are top notch. The people who make the Iron Man movie are top notch. Everything else, they hand it to the B and the C team, and they treat those characters, Madam Web and everybody else, they treat them like they're the step kids that nobody care about, and that's why they come out shit.
Well, I'd say I'm curious. Like Captain America, those movies are top notch, but like it's been the same formula for a decade. Is more what I'm saying. Like it's good, but it's the hero's gonna win. The hero's gonna be good looking. The hero's gonna be funny and charming and say the perfect thing in every conversation. Like I like the grittiness.
That's what the audience wants.
Mm-hmm.
They want that because think about it. The majority of the crowd is really my kids. I get it. We're the old heads, but my kids, they didn't grow up on that, but they found this. This is something we like. This is something we want. They're catering to these guys.
Yeah,
they're not really catering to us. We're more mature. We want these characters to grow up. We want these characters to expound upon the story, but they always have to keep these kids in the background.
100%. That's the target audience.
And so that's the reason. That's why that's why Disney is there, to make sure, hey, our kids, right? It's all about Disney World to us, and you got to make sure you got the rides. You got to make sure the characters are on the up and up. You can't go to. This is one thing I love about Logan, right? Logan, one of the best movies ever created.
Yes.
But only because they had no rules to go by. This was old man Logan. This was no longer the young guy in the suits or whatever. This was the gritty rated R. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want. This is not for kids. Kids shouldn't watch this. This is for you, the old heads. Mm-hmm. That's why it resonated with us. All the other stuff is for the kids.
So I guess I'll say this. If you look at like Avengers versus Spider-Verse, just like the writing for Spider-Verse, I found much more enjoyable. While they're both kind of, targeted at younger audiences,
Yeah.
Spider-Verse is
Well, it's
talking about things like identity, what you want to do with your life, how do you deal
Yeah.
with differences in your own family. Whereas you look at the
Yeah.
Avengers and it's just like, good-looking guy, genius, builds a suit in a cave.
well,
His
Yep.
girlfriend's wearing the suit now. That's a struggle. Oh, he has
Yeah.
cancer. Just kidding. He's a genius and can fix it. Like, it's all very
well,
Yeah.
extreme, not
I think
down to earth stuff.
it's in a way you're
Yeah.
describing what's a character-driven story versus a plot-driven story, where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
we're trying to push the plot forward because we've got 3 movies already in the pipeline that
Yeah.
need to kind of build off of this element and that element, and that's not a wrong thing. Like, I like this connected universe and that you get to see these standalone movies and then these characters get to come together and have these different struggles. I thought, especially when we look at phase 1 through 3 of the original MCU, it's excellent. But I
Yeah.
think James Gunn knocked it out of the park when he talked about one of the key problems plaguing Disney right now is that they're finishing the script after they've already started making and filming the movie. And so it
Yeah.
ends up feeling like a lot of the times we've seen the third act just kind of like, oh, and now there's just a big CGI monster.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
and now it's done.
that's how
Yeah.
we wrap this conflict up. Like, Captain Marvel, for example, like the Marvels movie was so incoherent, and it felt like there was another movie, and then they didn't like that, so then they were like, well, let's just chop this all up. And it's unfortunate because I thought there could be some really great characters that could have played within that. And there could have been some really cool galactic story played in that, built off of Miss Marvel, which I thought was actually like Kamala Khan as a character and the actress who plays her like are great. But it sounds like those plans have been scrapped. But James Gunn, with him taking over DC, because it's like the Guardians of the Galaxy stand out. Like, it's like
Excellent.
you can
Yeah.
feel like, again, with Deadpool and Wolverine, with Guardians of the Galaxy, you feel that crafted movie. Like, you feel like it's got somebody who actually cares. It's Sony caring
Yeah.
about their IP. Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm going to push back on that executive because this is actually really important, because that executive is trying to defend their position, but this is
Mhm.
going to be something that's going to make better cinema. And I'm so excited for James Gunn's DC universe, which actually kicks off this year with Creature Commandos on Max. And my wife and I just recently subscribed to Max, so I'm like, we ain't canceling this until after I watch Creature Commandos, because that's going to lead into Superman coming back to the big screen next year. And we got Green Lantern Fillion playing the Green Lantern. Like, that's exactly who.
When is Gunn getting a Justice League movie? That's my
At some
question.
point, I think that's the direction. And
We
honestly,
need to wipe Zack Snyder's from our brain.
wipe it all. It's gone. But also, can I spoil one thing with Deadpool with you, Jay?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Cavalrine, baby. Like, do you remember that scene?
Which
Dante?
one?
Yeah.
So he's going to the multiverse of different Wolverines, and there was all these rumors and
God.
stuff
Oh,
about Henry
yeah.
Cavill being in it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
Henry Cavill
Cavalrine.
shows up as a Wolverine, and then he's
Ah.
badass. And I'm like, I'm wondering if they're setting that up for the future, where it's like, hey, we're
Yeah.
gonna bring Henry Cavill. You fired him from being Superman, but now we're gonna put him in Wolverine,
It's
and he's perfect
like-
for it.
I hate to
The
admit
Spider-
it,
it's
I
like
kinda
the
wanna see that.
Spider-Verse. It's like the Spider-Verse for Wolverine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a really fun scene. There's like 80s Logan, crucified Logan.
Oh,
Robot.
it's
It's
insane.
very fun.
It's such a
Yeah.
good. I cannot wait, Jay. Yeah, when you go see it, we got to get you back, and we could do a full on just like
Yeah.
balls to the wall, like what? Because there's so much in.
It's
We've
a great
spoiled some
movie.
of it.
Yeah.
We've spoiled
There's
such a small
so-
amount of it.
So much more that happens.
And it's so
Yeah.
incredible
Okay.
how they've
You're in for
hidden
so
all
much.
of it. Like, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I think Ryan Reynolds is like, yeah, we filmed a lot of fake movie. So,
Yeah.
so it's just so that, there's a lot of movie that what we filmed just so that if it ever leaked out, that people wouldn't be spoiled because it wasn't real.
So much.
I think it was that
Yeah.
Hot Ones interview, or I know I just watched some interview where they were talking about they were going to release a fake movie,
Yes.
like Badass Cop 5, more badassery. And
Yeah.
if people actually went to see it in theaters, it was just Deadpool 3. Like, oh,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Yeah.
They said like it would go 10 minutes into a bad movie. Like, it's just a bad
Yeah.
movie. And then after 10 minutes, then the Marvel thing would pop up.
Yeah.
And then go into it. And I was like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Jay, where
But
can
if
people
that
find you,
fails,
man?
that would be terrible.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at JDubCity16. I'm always trying to keep you guys laughing with all the gifs and the memes. You know what I'm saying? Don't really do YouTube much, but you guys can just find me there on Twitter, man. I'm always dusting up stuff with the console war with Xbox and PlayStation. Yeah, just try to keep you guys laughing and just poking fun at everything.
Dante, where can people find you, sir?
Check me out at dantescomedy.com. It's a terrible website I made myself. Please talk some shit on it. I need to update it, and I don't do it unless people talk smack. And yeah, Dante's Comedy on Instagram. If you're in Cleveland, hit me up. Come do some trivia.
And as we wrap up the show, I want to bring up a comment from Midnight Geek. This is a first kind of review and a positive comment that's on the content. Typically, it's so like thank God nothing offends me, right? Like my wife wishes that I could be offended, but I'm just like, oh yeah, I am a piece of shit. Okay, cool. But he says it's actually a positive one. So he says, hey guys, I've enjoyed your gaming videos for quite some time, WoW and Final Fantasy 14, but this is the first time that I've watched this channel, and I have to tell you that I absolutely love the discussion of all the different topics, not limited to gaming. Really enjoyed your thoughts, takes, and observations on world events and issues. Thank you so much for this. Had a lot of fun listening and learning. And so Midnight Geek, thank you. If you're listening to this too, you're one of us. You're one of us in the club and all that. And I thank you guys so much. And if you are enjoying this kind of content, we're gonna talk about everything, you know, like we're not gonna
smash that like button,
smash that like so that YouTube knows.
Is what the kids say.
Yeah. Smash that like, subscribe, and share, all that good stuff. But yeah, thanks to everybody for listening. This is the Stand Up Press Start podcast. I failed it at the start, might as well fail it at the ending as well. And we thank you guys, and we will see you back here next week.
Peace.
Deuces.